have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. These words from Marcus Aurelius echo across nearly 2,000 years, yet they feel like they were written for today. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a crowded street, screens flashing on every corner, voices rising from every direction. One voice tells you to buy more, another whispers you're not enough, while another provokes your anger, daring you to lose control. The world is noisy, chaotic, and relentless, and in that noise lies a subtle poison: distractions, temptations, and manipulations designed to weaken your mind. But here's the question. How do you protect yourself when the attack doesn't come from swords or arrows, but from thoughts, words, and invisible influences that creep into your very soul? Evil is not always obvious. It rarely wears a mask of horror. More often, it slips in through envy, greed, lies, and the endless pull of desires that leave you restless and chained. If the mind is the last fortress of freedom, what defenses do we have? The Stoics believed that with the right strategies, you could make your mind untouchable, even while living in a corrupt world. Would you like to discover how? When the Stoics spoke of evil, they did not simply mean tyrants or violent enemies. They meant anything that could distort your character, corrupt your judgment, or pull you away from living in harmony with reason and virtue. Evil, in this sense, can be subtle. It may arrive as anger that clouds your vision, greed that consumes your peace, or fear that paralyzes your will. Today, these forces are everywhere. The constant flood of information, the curated images on social media, the competitiveness of workplaces, and even the quiet comparisons we make in daily life. They all contain seeds that can grow into destructive habits of mind if left unchecked. This is why Stoicism feels more relevant than ever. While the ancient philosophers lived under emperors and armies, we live under algorithms and advertisements. Yet the danger is the same: the invasion of our inner world by forces we do not control. If we do not protect the mind, we hand over our freedom to every distraction, every temptation, every manipulation. The good news is that the Stoics left us more than warnings. They gave us tools. They believed that the mind could be trained, strengthened, and disciplined like a muscle. They believed that a human being, no matter how chaotic the external world, could remain unshaken inside. And so the challenge is not whether the world is evil, it always has been and always will be, but whether you have built the defenses to face it. 5 strategies stand out among Stoic teachings, practical methods that any person today can use to keep their mind uncorrupted. These strategies are not abstract theories. They are daily practices, sharpened over centuries, meant to make you resilient, calm, and untouchable. We are about to step into them, one by one. Each strategy is like a stone in the fortress wall, each practice a shield you can carry into your day. If you have ever felt drained by negativity, if you have ever wondered why the world seems to pull you in directions you never chose, then this journey is for you. The Stoics believed that the ultimate power lies not in conquering others, but in ruling oneself. And that begins by learning how to protect the mind from evil. Epictetus once said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." In those few words lies one of the deepest truths of Stoic philosophy. The idea that what happens outside us is not what breaks us, it is our perception of those events. The insult, the loss, the failure, the injustice, all of these are powerless until we interpret them as wounds. Evil does not enter through the event itself, it enters through the door of our perception. Imagine 2 people in the same office. Both receive harsh criticism from their manager. One leaves shattered, convinced they are worthless, spiraling into resentment and anger. The other takes the same words, pauses, and sees an opportunity to learn, or if the criticism is unfair, a chance to practice patience. The event was identical, but the outcomes could not be more different. What separated them was not the criticism, but the meaning each person attached to it. This is where the first Stoic strategy begins: to control your perceptions. The mind, like a lens, can either distort the world or reveal it clearly. Evil thrives when we allow our lens to twist reality into personal torment. It wants you to see an enemy where there is only a challenge, to see an insult where there is only ignorance, to see a catastrophe where there is only change. The Stoic task is to polish the lens, to refuse to let destructive interpretations cloud our vision. In modern life, we are bombarded with opportunities to misinterpret. A message left unanswered becomes a rejection. A colleague's success becomes a personal loss. A bad day becomes proof that the world is against us. Each time we let these interpretations stand unchallenged, we hand over our peace to shadows. But if we remember Epictetus's wisdom, we can pause before reacting and ask, what story am I telling myself about this? Is this truly harmful, or is it my own thought that makes it so? Practically, this means training yourself to step back before you respond. When something disturbs you, delay your reaction. Breathe, then test your perception. Is this fact or interpretation? Often, you will find the evil you felt was nothing more than a judgment you placed upon neutral reality. By practicing this daily, whether in traffic, at work, or in relationships, you begin to strip away the power of external events. This is not denial. The Stoics did not ask us to pretend pain or injustice do not exist. They asked us to distinguish between what happens and how we frame what happens. That difference is the space where freedom lives. To control perception is to declare that your mind will not be ruled by reflex, exaggeration, or illusion. It is the first wall of defense against evil, for when perception is clear, deception loses its grip. Once you have taken hold of perception, the next step is to guard what even reaches your mind in the first place. Because if you are not careful, the world will flood your attention with 1,000 small corruptions, and perception alone will not be enough. This is where the second Stoic strategy begins. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." If perception is the first defense, then attention is the gatekeeper. Whatever you give your attention to will eventually shape your inner life. If you guard it poorly, you invite confusion, anger, envy, and fear inside. If you guard it wisely, you cultivate peace, clarity, and strength. Consider the modern world. Every platform, every advertisement, every headline is designed to capture your attention, not for your good, but for profit, distraction, or manipulation. Think of the hours spent scrolling through endless feeds of outrage, envy-inducing lifestyles, or fear-filled news. By the time you put your phone down, your mind is not your own. It has been colored by negativity, often without you realizing it. This is how evil enters silently, through unchecked attention. The Stoics knew that attention is sacred. To them, the mind is like a garden. What you water grows. If you allow weeds of gossip, hatred, and triviality to flood in, they will choke out wisdom and virtue. But if you choose carefully, nurturing thoughts of courage, gratitude, and justice, you strengthen your character day by day. The quality of your life, they taught, is nothing more than the quality of your focus. Imagine 2 evenings. In one, a man spends 3 hours scrolling through angry debates and sensational headlines. He closes his day agitated, restless, and cynical. In the other, he spends the same 3 hours reading a thoughtful book, reflecting on his actions, or having a meaningful conversation. He closes his day calmer, wiser, and more content. Both lived the same day in the same world, but their attention made all the difference. Practically, this strategy calls for discipline. Begin with small steps. Choose 1 hour of your day to reclaim. Turn off notifications, put away distractions, and devote that time to something that uplifts your mind. Limit exposure to toxic inputs, whether that means unfollowing sources of negativity, setting boundaries in conversations, or consciously curating what you consume. Build attention rituals into your routine, a morning reflection instead of morning news, a walk in silence instead of endless scrolling, a book of wisdom instead of an endless stream of noise. This is not withdrawal from the world, but mastery of it. The Stoics did not avoid society, but they refused to be ruled by its chaos. By deciding what deserves your attention, you decide what colors your soul. You can let the world paint it with anger and fear, or you can paint it with resilience and clarity. Once the gates of attention are guarded, however, you must ensure the walls within are strong. Because even with careful focus, life will test you with hardship, temptation, and adversity. The next strategy is to fortify your character with virtue, the unshakable armor of the Stoic mind. Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." To the Stoics, the strength of your mind is not built in times of ease, but in the moments when you are tested. Evil does not only come from outside, it thrives when it finds weakness within. The antidote is virtue, courage, justice, wisdom, and self-control. These are not abstract ideals. They are the armor that allows you to withstand corruption, temptation, and fear. Think of a young student offered the chance to cheat on an exam. The temptation whispers, "No one will know. You'll gain advantage. It's harmless." Without virtue, the student bends, rationalizes, and lets dishonesty enter his life. But another student, though equally tempted, stands firm. The test is not the exam, it is his character. By choosing honesty, he strengthens his armor. The grade fades into memory, but the virtue remains, growing sturdier with each choice. This is the essence of the Stoic strategy, strengthening inner virtue. Evil cannot take hold of a mind that is anchored in principles. Courage protects against fear. Justice guards against cruelty. Wisdom reveals truth beneath illusion, and self-control shields against excess. Together, these virtues form the walls of a fortress. Without them, even the smallest assault can crumble your defenses. Modern life is full of these tests. At work, you may feel the pull to betray your values for ambition. In relationships, you may be tempted to retaliate with cruelty when hurt. In your private life, you may struggle with indulgence, anger, or envy. Each test is a chance to practice virtue, to prove yourself not to others, but to your own conscience. Seneca reminds us that adversity is a gift. It gives you the opportunity to become stronger than you were yesterday. Practically, you can cultivate virtue through reflection and practice. Begin by journaling daily. Ask yourself, did I act with courage today? Did I practice self-control when tempted? Was I fair and just in my dealings? Did I seek wisdom before acting? These questions sharpen awareness and guide growth. Then, in moments of difficulty, recall the Stoics' challenge. Adversity is the forge where character is shaped. Instead of resenting it, embrace it as your training ground. When you live with virtue as your armor, evil loses much of its power. Lies, temptations, and insults may still come, but they will find no weakness to exploit. Your integrity becomes your shield, and your discipline your sword. Yet even the strongest character can falter if it wastes energy on battles it cannot win. This is why the next Stoic strategy is to detach from what lies beyond your control and to focus only on the realm where your freedom truly resides. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." These words reveal the fourth Stoic strategy, detachment from what lies beyond our control. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control, the clear division between what belongs to us our thoughts, choices and actions, and what belongs to the world, everything else. Evil grows strongest when we forget this line, when we let what we cannot command dictate the state of our soul. Think of the insults hurled in an online comment section. One person reads them and carries them like heavy stones, replaying them in the mind, allowing strangers to poison their day. Another reads the same words, recognizes they are outside their control, and lets them go like wind passing by. The insult still exists, but the harm does not take root. The difference is not in the words, but in the choice to claim or reject ownership of the pain. The modern world tempts us constantly to fight battles outside our control. We rage at traffic, worry endlessly about economic shifts, envy others' good fortune, or despair over politics we cannot change alone. Each time we do, we hand over fragments of our peace to forces we cannot command. The Stoic answer is not passivity, but wisdom. To pour your energy only into what is yours to shape, and to release the rest. Practically, this strategy can begin with a simple question. Is this within my control? If yes, act with courage and clarity. If no, withdraw your consent to suffer over it. For example, you cannot control whether others treat you fairly, but you can control how you respond. You cannot control the market, but you can control your financial discipline. You cannot control the weather, but you can control whether you prepare for it with calm acceptance. Each distinction sharpens your freedom. Detachment does not mean indifference to the world. It means refusing to let what is not yours enslave you. By practicing this daily, you begin to see how much of life's evil is simply wasted resistance against the unchangeable. The insults, the delays, the losses, they may strike the body or the circumstances, but they need not strike the mind. When you master detachment, you stop fighting unwinnable wars. Your energy, once scattered on uncontrollable storms, is gathered back into the fortress of your soul. And yet, even strong walls and wise detachment require maintenance. For the enemy is persistent, and the mind can drift if it is not examined. This is why the Stoics insisted on one final discipline, the daily practice of reflection. Seneca once wrote, "Every night before going to sleep we must ask ourselves, what infirmity have I mastered today? What passions opposed? What temptation resisted? What virtue acquired?" In this nightly ritual lies the fifth Stoic strategy, daily reflection. Evil thrives in shadows, in unexamined habits and unnoticed choices. Reflection is the lamp that exposes it, the practice that keeps the mind vigilant and pure. Imagine ending your day without pause. You close your laptop, collapse into bed, and drift into sleep, still carrying the noise, irritations, and hidden influences of the day. Slowly, without noticing, you become less patient, more anxious, more reactive. The erosion of your peace is so gradual that you do not realize what is happening until you feel hollow. Now imagine ending the same day differently. Before sleep, you sit in silence for 10 minutes. You replay your actions. Where did anger take hold? Where did you practice restraint? What moment filled you with envy? Where did you act with justice? You write a few notes in a journal, not to punish yourself, but to learn. With this small act, you clear away the dust of the day and prepare your mind for tomorrow. The Stoics believed that reflection is not optional. It is maintenance of the soul. Just as a warrior cleans his armor after battle, the philosopher cleans his mind after each day. Reflection transforms mistakes into lessons, temptations into victories, and small virtues into growing strength. Without it, evil slips in unnoticed, disguised as harmless habits that accumulate until they dominate your life. With it, you become alert to your own weaknesses, and better prepared to meet them with courage. Practically, this practice can be as simple as a notebook by your bed. Each night, ask yourself 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I falter? How can I improve tomorrow? Write down even small victories, like holding your tongue in irritation, or moments of failure, like giving in to distraction. Over time, patterns emerge. You begin to see which temptations return, which virtues need more attention, and which habits strengthen your peace. Daily reflection also creates perspective. Many of the day's worries shrink in hindsight, and what seemed unbearable hours before becomes trivial. This clears the mind, allowing you to sleep with greater calm and wake with renewed purpose. It also strengthens humility, reminding you that growth is continuous, that each day is another opportunity to live closer to wisdom. By practicing reflection, you make your mind a living fortress, one that repairs its walls nightly. The world may continue to press against you with its distractions and evils, but each evening you reclaim your clarity, reminding yourself of who you are and who you wish to be. And with this final strategy, the Stoic defenses are complete. Perception, attention, virtue, detachment, and reflection, a circle of strength that protects the mind from corruption. When you learn to control perception, you begin to see clearly that much of what feels like harm is only interpretation. But clarity alone is not enough. The next question is, what are you even allowing into your mind in the first place? This leads us naturally to the importance of guarding attention, the true gatekeeper of the soul. Once attention is protected, however, the mind still needs resilience. It is not enough to filter what enters. You must also strengthen the structure itself. This is where virtue becomes essential, the inner armor that prevents corruption from taking root. Yet even the strongest armor will be wasted if you keep fighting battles you cannot win. Virtue must be paired with wisdom, and wisdom teaches us to let go of what is not in our control. Only by detachment do we free ourselves from needless suffering and the grip of external evils. Still, a fortress left unattended eventually crumbles. No matter how disciplined you are in perception, attention, virtue, and detachment, the mind drifts if it is not examined. That is why the practice of daily reflection becomes the final key, the nightly ritual that maintains, repairs, and strengthens your defenses against the subtle intrusions of evil. The Stoics taught that the greatest battles are not fought on battlefields but within the mind. Evil, as they understood it, is not only the cruelty of others or the corruption of society. It is also the slow erosion of your character, the surrender of your clarity, the compromise of your integrity. To protect the mind is to protect the very core of your humanity. We began with the insight that perception shapes experience. By controlling how you interpret events, you deny evil its first foothold. From there, attention becomes your gatekeeper, deciding which influences are allowed to enter. With perception clear and attention guarded, the next layer is virtue, the inner armor that makes you unbreakable even when tested. Yet, armor is not enough if you waste energy on battles beyond your control. Detachment frees you from that trap, reminding you to focus only on what is truly yours. Finally, reflection ties it all together, giving you the discipline to repair and strengthen your defenses day after day. Together, these 5 strategies form a circle of protection. They are not mystical secrets, but practical disciplines anyone can practice. The result is not a life without hardship. No philosophy can promise that, but a life where hardship cannot break you. The world may rage, deceive, or tempt, but the mind, trained in Stoic practice, remains steady. Like a fortress built stone by stone, your inner life becomes a place of safety, strength, and peace. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Protect your mind, and you protect the colors of your soul. Let them be dyed not by anger, envy, or fear, but by wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. In this way, you are no longer at the mercy of the world. You become, as the Stoics believed, the ruler of yourself, and that, they would say, is the greatest victory a human being can achieve. Tonight, before you go to sleep, take one quiet moment for yourself. Ask, what influence today pulled me away from peace? Was it anger, envy, distraction, or fear? Write it down. Then ask, how could I have met it differently? This simple act of journaling is not about judgment, but about awareness. Awareness is the beginning of freedom, and freedom is the essence of Stoicism. If even one of these 5 strategies spoke to you, choose it and practice it tomorrow. Maybe it is guarding your attention by limiting your time on social media. Maybe it is reframing a frustration at work as an opportunity to test patience. Maybe it is detaching from an outcome you cannot control. Whatever you choose, remember that progress is not made in great leaps, but in steady, daily practice. If you want to build your own Stoic fortress, surround yourself with reminders of these truths. Reflect, write, read, and return to them often. And if this message resonates with you, consider subscribing, because together we can continue exploring the timeless wisdom that strengthens the mind and steadies the soul. The world will not stop pressing against you, but with these practices you do not need to yield. Protect your mind and you protect your freedom.